Well, hey, everybody. This is Josh Hall from the Get Level Podcast Network, and you're listening to another episode of the Get Level Sessions. So I've got a couple special guests with me here today, and I'm going to introduce them here shortly. So first of all, I got Percy Garner sitting next to me. Percy, why don't you say hi to everybody?
Hello. Like you said, I'm Percy Garner, host of the 99 Miles Per Hour podcast with Percy Garner here on the Get Level Podcast Network. And I feel good to be here. I'm really excited and definitely want to make time in my day to get opportunity to talk here.
That's right. So we've got a very special conversation we're going to have today. So we actually have a conversation with a representative from the Pro Football Hall of Fame just up the road in Canton, Ohio, from where we're located. So we're going to bring in Rich Desrosiers into the podcast. Rich, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Welcome from Canton.
Yeah. So Rich has got that nice backdrop in his office there.
Is that bears?
Some of the, yeah. How about that? Yeah. Well, you got, is that real brick behind you guys too?
That is not real brick.
Dang it.
He called us out on it.
I literally tried to lean up against it a couple nights ago and found out the hard way.
It is some of that is real stone. Well, whatever you can see is real stone behind me from the original Hall of Fame, built in 1963.
Dang.
That's pretty cool.
That is.
So Rich, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about your role at the Hall of Fame and what you do there?
Okay. Well, my title is Vice President of Communications and Public Relations, and what I do depends on the day. Some days I might be writing a news release for something going on at the hall. I might be speaking to the media like I am with you guys right now. I might be editing the tribute book that's set to go to press here to recognize the class of 2020. And then, one of the nice things about the job is just how no 2 days are really the same and how much is going on at the hall outside of the annual Enshrinement events and the Hall of Fame game and some of those things. There's really a lot more going on here than I think most people would realize.
Well, I mean, I think maybe we should start there. That brings up a question in my mind. What are those other things that are going on other than the Enshrinement week, which we'll get into all that here in a little bit.
Sure. Well, one of the things happening right now is we're working into a partnership for an entity that'll be called Hall of Fame Health. And this is going to be a medical delivery service to help players, whether they played one down in the NFL or whether they're enshrined in the Hall of Fame, to help them navigate medical care, insurance, finding the right doctors, getting the right supplements, finding care for their spouses, for their children. A lot of these guys, especially the players who achieved a high level of fame and had a lot of money, they've always had somebody to handle these issues for them, whether it be through the team or through an agency, through their own families, their parents. All of a sudden, their career ends, they're on their own, they hit middle age or early middle age, and their first health crisis pops up. They don't have any idea what to do in some cases, just how to navigate insurance, how to find the right doctor, how to get a specialist if they need one. And so the Hall of Fame recognized this as a huge need and is partnering with a company in California called Sovereign Healthcare to bring together some world-class doctors and some world-class service to any ex-football player that might need it. So fledgling operation just getting launched, and I think you're going to hear a lot more about that in months and years to come. It's going to be one of the real pillars of the Hall of Fame before too much longer.
Man, that's
just one example. Yeah,
I was going to say halfway through that, I was like, man, I wish baseball did something like this, because you really don't. Now, I was one of the people that I was really always in tune with my insurance coverage and making sure I knew what was going on, because baseball, obviously the NFL has a lot of people to deal with, a lot of players each team. But with baseball, one organization has to deal with 250 players and all their minor league organizations and stuff like that. So it might be a little bit more of a challenge, but that's a great idea. That's something that you guys, I never would have thought of, hey, this need, or most people wouldn't have thought of, hey, this is a need for the players and retired players. But I mean, I'm glad you guys thought of it, because that is definitely something that is very important.
It is, and another element of that too is world-class athletes sometimes they don't want to feel like they're dependent on somebody else. They've been the alpha for their entire lives, and all of a sudden they're in a position where they need a little help, and they're reluctant to reach out. And sometimes get away from them. They let things go a little too far, and when they finally ask for help, they're not quite sure where to go. And so Hall of Fame Health is going to help them navigate all of that.
For sure.
That's awesome. Now, is that modeled after, someone else that had already tried this sort of thing, or how did you guys come up with this idea?
Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So a couple of the living Hall of Famers, we call them gold jackets. It's a term we use for the living Hall of Famers because they have the gold Hall of Fame jacket. Basically said, I have an illness or a disease, and I just don't know where to turn. Reached out to the NFL Player Care Association. I just sort of became a do you know somebody who can help me type of thing. And once we scratched the surface of it a little bit, realized, hey, wait a minute, this isn't just one guy who is having a problem. There's a lot of guys in this situation. There's a lot of guys who have issues with joints and are looking for somebody that they can trust to do a joint replacement surgery, or dementia is an issue with some former athletes, bariatric surgery for some players who have let their ex-players who have let weight issues get out of control, dietary, diabetes, you name it. And there's probably somebody in the universe of the NFL who's dealing with it and struggling to deal with it, and just is looking for kind of that beacon of light to help them navigate through unknown waters for them. And that's where Hall of Fame Health is going to come in.
That's pretty awesome. Percy, you got anything else to?
No, I'm just I'm impressed, and I do agree with the necessity being, the birth of ideas like this, and like I said before, it's pretty good that, and I think it's a good idea, and I'm glad you guys are doing it for the players.
Thanks. I think, and you're going to see supplements be a big issue too. The guys who are in good shape, who some of these guys, the average lifespan in the NFL is 3.5, 4 years, and that's average. So when you take a guy like a Ray Lewis who played 15 years or whatever, or a guy like Drew Brees or Tom Brady who are in their 20th years or whatever, when you add those guys in and realize that the average is around 4, then you start to realize how many guys are in for 1 or 2 years only. So guys get their taste in NFL football or Major League Baseball. But it's over by age 25, and but they want to take care. They've still got a world-class body. Maybe they can't hit 100 on the radar gun anymore, or run on a 4.4 anymore. But they're still world-class athletes compared to most of us, and they want to. How can they keep that edge? And so diet, supplements are also going to be elements that are big parts of Hall of Fame Health. So it's not just people who are battling something maybe later in their lives, but just to take that guy from 25 or 30 into age 40, 50, 60 at the most optimum health they can maintain. So that's an element of it too.
Yeah, that's very important. I mean, I'm already, that's why I said I wish baseball did something like this, because, I'm starting to get bigger, and I don't really have the diet that I used to. And I definitely don't exercise the way I used to when I was playing. So it's like you said, man, it's magical that they have it, and like we might go into later, it's not like you guys are getting this all paid for by the NFL or whatever. This is something outside, and it looks like, hey, this for people to be able to do this and not have big old corporations to pay for all this stuff. It just it goes to this area around here. We know how to take care of each other, and we know how to think of things that people need around us. So I think it's pretty cool.
Right. Right. You got the fraternity of the team. You got the fraternity of your own family and friends network, and then like you said, Percy, you're right about this area is extremely giving, and if they see somebody in need, they're going to say, well, what can I do to help? And that's where we are now. It's really new, but boy, the possibilities are just really it's exciting. It's exciting to work on something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really awesome. So you said, aside from the Hall of Fame Health, then you said there were some other things going on other than Enshrinement Week, right? Is there anything else you want to dive into?
Right. Well, we can dive into, yeah, sure. You know what? Today we just launched a video on demand service. It's kind of our first dipping our toe in the water. Hall of Fame Productions. Inside the Hall of Fame basically Hall of Fame has basically its own production house. And you think about the library of video available from the Hall of Fame, from the enshrinements, from the one-on-one exclusive interviews for the players that come through the doors of the hall and sit with us. So what we did is collect about 40 hours of those videos, and we launched a program with Bleacher Report today that'll last through the month of August to see if there's an appetite for some video on demand for some of this footage. That some of it's been seen in snippets here and there. Some of it's never been seen before. We have a 40 or 45 minute interview with Terrell Owens, who didn't come to the enshrinement ceremony but sat with us separately for around 40 minutes. That footage never been seen before. So if there's some fans out there of his who want to look at that, there's a new Hall of Fame video on demand service that's just launching. So that's another thing that's just in its infancy, and we'll see where that goes. So the ability to harness the name of the Hall of Fame with the access that we enjoy to current and former players, and all that great archive, and the music. You got to have the NFL music to go with it. And so put that all together, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have any trouble of getting a lot of interest in that type of structure. You said it's video on demand, and people love that. Obviously, we've seen with all these subscription services. But I'm intrigued, and I'm looking forward to it. But I know it launched today. How do we get our hands on that? Is it going to be like on the smart TVs?
Sure. It's going to be through a URL through the web, VOD.ProFootballHOF.com. So VOD like video on demand .ProFootballHOF.com. You go there, you can learn about it. It's a subscription service available. We're right now talking about just limiting it to the month of August to kind of be a pseudo enshrinement related event. But we'll see what happens. And our friends at Bleacher Report are helping us to promote this. And as our exclusive partner in this, they get some access to excerpts, from some of these videos never seen before. So people can either come straight to us on the website to learn about it, or if you're plugged into Bleacher Report, you're going to start seeing some things roll out through them.
That's awesome. And we'll promote it through the podcast here and everything. We'll have the link in the description and all that stuff too. So that's really cool. And it's funny because we're actually kind of in the process of our own video on demand project here at the studio as well. So
I didn't know if I was allowed to say anything.
Yeah. I'm getting too excited about it. I got to talk about it. So, but that's awesome. That is really cool. I'm going to check that out.
And you're just trying to catch people where they are, right? And how they consume. And so many people now, everything's through their phone, PC a little bit, maybe tablet a little bit, but everybody's got a phone. And if you're not working on something that involves, you directly or you in partnership with someone else who knows how to utilize that technology, you're going to be behind before too much longer.
Yeah.
Podcasts are big, video. There's so much consumption of video right now. It's almost hard to keep up.
Yeah, I did see a little bit of stats a couple months ago, and I think all the platforms like Facebook, YouTube, they're up. Believe it or not, YouTube, I want to say they're up above 50% of extra content that people were up above their typical hours watched. So the fact that people, I know we were all in our homes and stuff like that, but I already knew a lot of people who watch YouTube just for different reasons. So to see them, everything go up that much, it's crazy.
All right, so
you nailed it, and we want to be there with them, so we're not left behind.
For sure.
I'm really excited to check that out. So we've got, these are two things that we weren't even going to talk. I didn't even know we were talking about today. So Hall of Fame Health, and then we got the Hall of Fame, the video on demand.
Yeah,
that's out. Wow, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What else? Was there anything else, Rich?
The name of this particular project is Enshrinement Marathon. So about 40 hours of enshrinement related video coverage and interviews. So anybody who wants to check into that, we hope to get a big audience.
Absolutely. And as somebody who through my company for the last 8 years, doing corporate events at the Hall of Fame, that place is just absolutely incredible. Let me just say that before we dive any more into the Hall of Fame. The museum, the facilities, the things you guys are doing up there, you're always renovating, always adding on, changing things. From month to month, we'd go up there with different customers and they say, hey, this is really cool over here. I'm like, that's new. I didn't see that last month.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely haven't been there in a while.
At any one time, about 10% or so, probably even less, of what's in our collection is actually on display. Now, arguably some of the best stuff is what's on display, and the most popular stuff. But the volume and the ability to turn over exhibits, you're right, Josh. If you haven't been to the Hall of Fame in a while and I was there in 2018, or I was there in 2015, or I was there in 2010. Now, it's completely turned over. Certainly since the last handful of years. Right now we just added the locker exhibit for the Centennial Class of 2020. So each of the 20 guys who's part of the Centennial Class has a locker. Some of their donated memorabilia in it that kind of just give you a taste of some of the important pieces from their life, and it might be a game ball that they won somewhere along the way, or in a couple of cases it's a Bible that the players carried throughout their careers and would read before games or read after games. A Letterman sweater, a decal, most valuable player trophy that they won in college, whatever it is, these are in those lockers. So, that's brand new. Last night we unveiled the Super Bowl 54 movie, Kansas City's victory over San Francisco.
Those films in the Super Bowl theater, that thing is, man, I every time we go up there, I got to see the Super Bowl movie. Well, I don't even care what Super Bowl it is. I watch it. It is cool. It is so cool.
That's right.
Sounds like there's a lot of stuff I need to catch up on.
And that's all. And that's all included in your admission too. There's no add-on cost to go see the Super Bowl movie. There's no add-on cost to see the Game for Life movie. Josh, have you?
Yeah, I was going to say,
gotten to see the Game for Life?
I have. Why don't you go ahead and explain that to all the listeners? What Game of Life is, because it's a really different. You say you call it a movie, right? But it's kind of. Well, I'll let you do it. I'll let you talk about it. It's awesome.
I called it a movie, but that's really a misnomer. You're right. It's an experience. It's a holographic experience. When a holographic Joe Namath quote unquote walks out on stage to introduce the movie, you know you're about to see something a little bit different, and it interweaves some holographic imagery. Joe Namath, George Halas, Vince Lombardi, with some living members of the Hall of Fame like Curtis Martin and Steve Largent, Warren Moon, just talking about how the game of football shaped their lives and how the camaraderie of the team or overcoming adversity, dealing with an injury, being told you're too slow or too small to play in the game, how overcoming whatever obstacle it was shaped who they became came and how they became members of the Hall of Fame. And if you haven't seen it, people ask me all the time, well, what's your favorite exhibit, or what's worth the price of admission just by itself? And for me, the Game for Life holographic experience is certainly one of a handful of things that just by itself makes the trip to Canton worthwhile.
Yeah, Percy, you got to check it out, man. I'm telling you, it is awesome.
And I got to take my kids up there and my wife, because I can't remember the last time. I want to say, I'm ashamed to say it, before I've been up there, but I've never, I haven't went in since, like, I want to say 7th grade, and that was 2001. So I wish I would have been able to see all the different changes. Obviously, it's going to be completely different than what I remember, but like Josh, he's been up there a lot, and he's been able to see it, go from I guess, era to era, and different types of upgrades you guys do. But now I've gone from 2001 to the complex that you guys have. I don't even know what to call it. You can't call it a complex. It's just monstrosity of beauty that I went and saw a high school. Last time I was there was you like that? Last time I was there was a high school.
I like that. I think we need
an
that for some
oxymoron if you've ever heard one.
Monstrosity of beauty.
Hey, there's a lot of oxymorons out there. That's like the fighting Quakers. No, I'm joking. Anyways, I'm looking forward to getting up there, making a visit, and showing my son. And my wife is a football fan as well. She wasn't really into baseball, so that'll be something that she would like to see as well.
She would, and not to sound like the part-time marketing guy, but there really is something here for everybody. And when we talk about other exhibits that are worth your time, Josh, you probably saw first thing when you walk in the door, the Hunt Casterline football card collection,
yes.
The world's most valuable collection of football cards. If that's your thing at all, it's breathtaking. And for somebody who collected a few packs of cards as a kid and then, put half of them in the spokes of his bicycle, to see the perfectly pristine, Johnny Unitas card or Walter Payton card, or and go all the way back. I mean, go all the way back to the earliest days of cards when they were made by the tobacco companies. And you see them all in their brand new pristine condition. It is unbelievable. If you're a fan of any degree, you're going to find something just there that just blows you away.
So the most interesting thing that I remember the first time I saw that card exhibit was whoever was, kind of showing us around that night we were there said, I want you guys to go in and try to find, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, but I believe he said go in and try to find the Tom Brady Topps Tom Brady rookie card. Is that right?
Oh, you know what? It's probably there. I didn't even know that.
No. I'm
assuming it's there because all the other big name games.
It was a trick question.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it was a trick question because he said you're going to be walking around for a long time because it doesn't exist. They didn't make one. They didn't make a Tom Brady rookie card.
Because he was drafted so low or what?
Yeah, he was a 6th round pick. They didn't make a card for him.
Yeah.
So that was one of those things that just, that trivia stuff when you go and looking at these, these cards of these, all-time great players and you're like, oh, Tom Brady, he's not in there.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Well, his rookie card's not in there.
Yeah. Other Super Bowls and stuff like that are probably in there, but not the rookie card. That is a fun fact.
There's a few Super Bowl rings and Lombardi trophies and things like that.
Yeah,
and you trade them.
Well, and you guys always have the Lombardi trophy on display in the hall, right? Or at least most of the time.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again, Josh? Cut out for 1 second.
Nope, you're good. So you guys usually have the Lombardi Trophy on display at the Hall of Fame, right?
That's correct.
Yep. Okay. So if anybody wants to check out what that thing up close, I mean, it's there. You guys got it in a nice glass case. You can walk right up, check it out. It's pretty awesome.
That's the closest that most of us people around here are going to get to one. So.
Yeah, it won't be up in Cleveland anytime.
Oh man!
Hey now.
Hey, I'm with you. I still root for him.
You're not on the Baker bandwagon, huh?
No, I'm a Baker guy all the way, man. All the way.
I'm not even a Browns fan, but I like Baker. I want him to succeed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
All right. Well, look, I'm really glad we talked about all this stuff, the cool things that the Hall of Fame, is doing outside of, the stuff that we came here to talk about. We kind of highlighted some of the exhibits, some of the cool things that if you're unfamiliar with the Hall of Fame, go check it out. I mean, this place it really is immaculate. It's a monstrosity of beauty, which could be the title of this show when we're done.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Rich, was there anything else that you wanted to highlight for listeners before we dive into kind of the COVID situation and Enshrinement Week and all that?
Yeah, maybe one other thing, you talked about, and I alluded to more going on here than Enshrinement. In the last couple of weeks, we've had a number of high school football players and coaches come to the campus to talk about social justice under the umbrella of a group called Build the Bridge. And I like to tout Build the Bridge whenever I get the opportunity. It actually comes from a coach in Cleveland Heights who launched this, and the genesis of that was it really comes from the George Floyd, the turmoil that surrounded the death of George Floyd. But before that, this coach had created a network for himself of different coaches, and one of the and this coach in particular is a black coach at Cleveland Heights, and he had some football questions. And the person he thought could help him the most was a coach at Olmsted Falls that he had met through the coaching ranks. Happens to be a white gentleman, and so they have this friendship, this coaching fraternity, coaching bond. And when all of this stuff started to swirl throughout the country in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing, the coach from Olmsted Falls reached out to the coach of Cleveland Heights and said, "Can you help me to help my kids understand racism, social injustice, just how to talk to each other, how to get along, what's safe to say, what shouldn't they say?" Just the questions really that all of us have to some degree or another. And light bulb goes off in the in the head of the coach at Cleveland Heights and says, "Hey, let's work on this together." And the next thing you know, he's got some other coaches kind of jumping on board, and he forms this group called Build the Bridge, and it's really intended for just that. It's for coaches and players to use football and to use the sanctity of the team and the huddle to break down any racial barriers that exist inside their own programs or externally. And so we brought Coach Hicks from Cleveland Heights, and he got about 26, 27 other coaches who each brought a couple players down to our campus. And, they got to tour the hall. They went into a private room in some small groups, broke down to some smaller groups. They went to a private room and had some of these discussions with each other. You go to a predominantly white school. What do you think when you see me? What do you think when you see me, a young African-American man walking down the street, and vice versa? And these were just really great conversations. And to a large extent, the players on the football team are ahead of Percy. You probably know this because you've been in the locker room, you've been in the clubhouse. Players are ahead of the general population for the most part.
They stole the words from me. Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah,
the sanctity of the team, right? You have to be, and we talk about some of them. We talk about it doesn't matter the color on the outside; it's the color of your jersey that you wear that matters, and most of the players here sort of get that. But what we want them to do then is to go back to their schools and talk to their peers who aren't involved in football or other organized sports and say, "Hey, wait a minute now. I know this kid from Olmsted Falls, or I know this kid from Dover or New Philly. He's a cool dude, and go talk to him." And so that's happened now twice. We've had let's see, we're getting close to 150, probably about 170 kids on our campus.
Dang.
No, I'm sorry, 170 total people. About 40 some coaches and over 100 kids on our campus to have these conversations, and it's just been fantastic. And I think you're going to hear a lot about this Build the Bridge program, and it's gonna grow, and it's gonna evolve into other communities.
Well, I think that's you made the point. I was literally just thinking of how I was going to say that, because every sport team I've been a part of, there really hasn't been any focus, or you don't really need or think about attacking racial issues, because there really aren't none. Just because if you want to win, only thing you do is you practice hard, you work hard, and you respect each other for that. It's not, and that's any sport. And I think that there really isn't. There may be some anomalies out there, but for the most part, when you're dealing with sports, I think it kind of it trumps, like you said, the general population and how they look at things. Because you guys are a brotherhood or a sisterhood, and you guys sweat and lift weights, run, and you struggle together, and that kind of just it kind of just takes away all that other, when you're breathing hard together, you're not really thinking about, okay, this person's black. You're just like, help me get through this, and just like in the military, I feel like it's similar to that right. as well. So.
Right. Yeah. Your brother or your sister's there to pick you up when you need it, and to lift you up. We use the huddle a lot. We talk about the huddle a lot at the Hall, and to some people, it's just a metaphor, and I understand that. But for us, it's really how we go about our business day to day, and we talk about when you huddle up, you can eliminate the outside noise, right? And it's just you and your teammates, and you're going to solve the problem together. And if that's football, that's one thing. If it's business or just your own family, you huddle up. You tune out the outside noise, and you solve the problem. And so that's what we're looking to do.
Yeah,
that's pretty.
Couldn't say it better.
Okay, so long story short, you guys have a lot going on up there. This is phenomenal.
That's right.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
It's not just a football game.
Yeah, right. Which I guess, if we're ready to segue into this, because so the Hall of Fame game, which, everybody knows as the kickoff to the NFL season, right? It's the first preseason game. It's like, yes, there's football, it might be the third and fourth stringers usually, but it's still football, right? It's the game, and everybody just gets jazzed,
right.
And it's a huge event for you guys. This is, it's kind of like your Super Bowl of events each year, right? Hall of Fame week.
That's how that's how we describe it. And you're right. It's we call it Enshrinement Week, but really it's with the other events put on by the Canton Regional Chamber of Commerce. It's darn near 2 full weeks now of entertainment and sights and sounds and lots of food and then you start with a balloon classic up at Kent State on the campus of Kent State Stark and Stark State weekend before the Enshrinement weekend, and then you go through and then you get to that Thursday night football game for us, and the Friday night dinner where the guys get their gold jackets, and then Saturday Enshrinement. It's a monstrosity of beautiful events.
Well, don't forget the concert, right? Isn't there usually a concert?
You're right. That's right. And the concert on the next Sunday.
Sunday, yeah. Okay.
And, Maroon 5 and Imagine Dragons have been through here, and Kid Rock and Toby Keith and Aerosmith the first year.
Dang.
Hard, tough acts to follow.
Yeah. And the stadium, the renovations that you guys have done up there for that stadium. Oh, man. Now there's your beauty.
That's
because Percy and I actually we played.
That's right.
We played up there back in high school.
Yeah, we did.
I know it didn't end so well, but
I fumbled the ball and lost it for his team. But the upgrades have been obviously at that time in 2006. It might have been 2007. It might have been January.
No, it was 6.
No, it was 6. for us, that was just a magical place. And I had been to watch, Mike Doss and people like that play in the stadium as a part of McKinley, back in the early 2000s. That was definitely a place you wanted to play, because obviously it meant you were successful as a high school football team, but you also got to play in the same stadium that NFL players walked on. And, you guys were the first place around here really with turf, and there's just so many stands. You had the big press box. But now what you guys got going on, my little cousin was able to play in the state championship game last year, and that's the last time I was there. And that was just, I was like, man, I can't believe they let high school players play on this field.
Well, you know what? And it demonstrates the relationship between the Hall and Hall of Fame Village and the city of Canton and Canton City Schools. The field is shared, and for a while it was also Malone University and Walsh University were using the field as well, and nice little recruiting tool for them as well. But you're right; it's a special place. It's NFL caliber. It was designed to meet the specifications of the NFL, and yet it's intimate enough that you can have a high school game in it, or state championship game. And it's part of the reason that the OHSAA enjoys having the state championships here versus Columbus is, you can put 7,000 or 10,000 people in the stadium and have a couple of small communities like Maria Stein Marion Local, or an Anna, or Youngstown Ursuline, or somebody with a small student body, St. Henry, come over here, state championship game, last one out of town, turn out the lights, you get 5,000 or 7,000 people in the stands, and it's still, it's raucous. It doesn't feel like it's empty. You can't put 5,000 people in the Horseshoe. And
you didn't even know they were there.
And the OHSAA recognizes that, and it's part of the reason we've had a great relationship with them, and really anticipate that the state championship games are going to stay here when they make their next decision.
Nice.
Yeah, that place.
Assuming we ever have high school football again.
Yeah. Yeah, this year might look a little different, but man, I tell you that stadium is immaculate. But so you said, you're right. So it's NFL specifications, like it's NFL caliber. But I don't know how many people around the country. I think around here, maybe it's more well known or maybe not, but a lot of people may associate the Pro Football Hall of Fame with the NFL, and rightfully so, but it is not owned by the NFL.
That's correct. And some people, it's interesting because, you asked me very early on, to maybe describe my job a little bit. And one element of my job, it seems, is to answer emails from people who say, I am never coming to the Hall of Fame because you support players kneeling. Well, that would be the NFL. And we are distinct. And we're not even the NFL Hall of Fame.
You're the Pro Football
we are
Hall
the
of
Pro
Fame.
Football Hall of Fame. And while the NFL is 90% of where the memorabilia comes from and the league that the players played in, there's exhibits for the USFL, and there's exhibits for the XFL, and there's also Black College Football Hall of Fame is included inside the buildings of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But we are the Pro Football Hall of Fame, distinct from the NFL, not funded by the NFL, not run by the NFL. We have our own leadership, completely distinct from Roger Goodell and the NFL. Certainly we're great partners with them, and we collaborate on almost everything that we do, but we're not funded by them. We're not ordered to do anything by them. We stand alone and we stand with them as partners, but definitely distinct.
Yeah, I definitely didn't know that.
Yeah, well, and you're right, because, Pro Football Hall of Fame, you just automatically think NFL. So, it's natural for people to assume it's an NFL entity, but it's not.
Right.
And I guarantee people probably do that.
NFL.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure people call it the NFL Hall of Fame sometimes.
Yeah. I know when we have, because we've done a lot of corporate events up there, so we'll bring customers in from all over the country, sometimes from Canada, Mexico, other places too. And, that is a huge learning thing for people to say, oh, it's not owned by the NFL. It's not the NFL Hall of Fame, like you said, Percy. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So, all right. So I was looking kind of back in time. In 2011, the NFL had a lockout, so the Hall of Fame game was canceled. Am I right on that?
Correct.
Okay, and then it was also canceled just a few years ago in 2016. I think a little more recently, we remember the field conditioned issue that came up, so they canceled that game. That was the Green Bay game and all that. So the game cancellations, it's not ideal to have that happen, but it has happened. Has Enshrinement Week, this whole festival of events and activities, has this entire thing ever been completely canceled before?
No, this is a first. And, as you alluded to, a couple of instances with the games, there's also been, I think, two, maybe three times when games have been cut short because there's been some lightning or other severe weather. But the enshrinement itself and the related activities have gone on since 1963 was the first enshrinement, and, correlated with the opening of the Hall of Fame. And, for 56 consecutive years, all was right with the world until COVID-19. So this is uncharted waters for us, and we're looking for ways to react to it on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's absolutely bizarre. So let me ask you this: who canceled the game and who canceled the rest of the events? Like, how did this all come down? Did you guys say we're not going to host the game, or did the NFL say we're not going to participate in the game?
And that's a good question. And I guess from a very technical standpoint, again, being distinct from the NFL, ultimately it was our decision, but after weeks and weeks of consultations, not only with the NFL, but with the state of Ohio on what was going to be possible. And we reached a point where when we were, roughly five or so weeks out from when the game would have been played, to where it was just, there was much uncertainty on where we were going to be. And time has proven, that time has proven this to be the correct call, as we've seen the direction that some of the COVID infection has gone in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Turn that back another couple of weeks previous, there was still some sense, well, maybe we've got things going in the right direction. Maybe we could pull this off. But there was just that cloud of uncertainty hanging over the event. And even some of the enshrinees themselves saying, I'm not sure I want to come. I'll come. Certainly I'm going to come to my own enshrinement, but I'm uncomfortable. And, you start to look at how many different constituencies or groups had a stake in this, and what different concerns were. So you had some enshrinees themselves who are in their 60s, 50s or 60s, who maybe at some greater health risk and just leery about traveling. So there's kind of a strike against proceeding. The past enshrinees, some of whom are 70 or 80 years old, who look forward to coming every year, saying, I don't think I want to get on a plane this year. The 4,500 to 5,000 volunteers who make Enshrinement Week happen every year, saying, if you guys go ahead, I'm not sure you can count on me this year. So you take those people kind of, talking to you and saying, we're just not sure, this doesn't feel right. And then the league kind of sending out some signals that maybe they're going to cut back on the preseason. Ultimately, it was to answer your question, ultimately it was our decision to say, okay, we talked to the Steelers, talked to the Cowboys, talked to the league. Everybody said this was the right thing to do. So we said no to the game for 2020. Now, the good thing to come out of that was that both the Steelers and the Cowboys said, but we want in for 2021. So, we reminded people, when the game was postponed, hey, hang on to that ticket, because that 2020 ticket will get you through the gate in 2021, because the Steelers and Cowboys both said they wanted to come back. So once that game was canceled, then it became some questions about, well, what about the rest of it? And, we could have had an enshrinement without the game, but again, it just didn't seem right. It wasn't the right way to honor people who were reaching the pinnacles of their career of entry into the Hall of Fame to say, well, come to Canton, but there won't be a game. There won't be a parade. Your enshrinement might not have anybody in the audience. Not sure if you can have a gold jacket dinner. That just didn't make sense. So, it ended up with saying no to everything for 2020 and just jumping straight into, the campaign of twice the fun in 21. Josh, you and I talked about briefly, the idea of 2 enshrinements in 2021 fantastic classes. You got the class of 2020 already established, already picked, and you look at who's going to be on the ballot for 2021, and you can see the level of excitement, in our area at this, this fast forward 1 year from today, the level of excitement is going to be off the charts.
Yeah, I see class of 2020, some of Percy's favorite people obviously getting inducted here with Bill Cower and Troy Polamalu.
Yeah.
But so next year's class could potentially have Peyton Manning, Calvin Johnson, Charles.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, right. Who's that guy? I guess, do you see any issues with having 2, because you're going to have both ceremonies in the same weekend, right? Next year?
Same weekend. They'll be distinct. The class of 2020 would be on Saturday, and the class of 2021 would be on Sunday. The issues are just going to be how tired the Hall of Fame staff is when the weekend's over, and how long of a vacation we can take when we can come up for air, because it's going to be quite a sprint to get people everywhere they need to be. So, but you know what? It's a challenge we're all looking forward to.
Yeah, because we always do an event in August, and we have to wait until Hall of Fame weekend is over. So we usually come up right after you guys are done putting on this entire thing. The tents are still up. Everything's still out there, coming down. And everybody just, I feel so bad. Everybody just seems so drained because it's like months and months and months of this preparation. Then I can't even imagine how much energy you guys have to exert, just to do all the events and everything that goes on. But you guys pull it off every year. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Did you want to say something?
And give a shout out to the Canton Regional Chamber of Commerce for the role that they play in the events and helping us to host them, and the volunteers. There's no way that the hall employs around 60 people. You can't pull off an events of this magnitude with just a few dozen people. We rely heavily and lean heavily on the thousands of volunteers who every year, circle these dates on their calendar as well. And you've got people driving courtesy cars for years and years and years and building up relationships. And sometimes, for the same people, that come back to town every year. Some of the past enshrinees that come back to town every year, we've got a few cases where past enshrinees asking, hey, is Bill still a driver? I'd really like to have him again this year. And those relationships get built over time. And so we rely really heavily on those volunteers because there's no way we can pull it off ourselves.
Yeah. I do want to bring up the fact that, this Ohio State alum over here failed to mention Charles Woodson, but that's neither here nor there.
I said Charles Woodson, didn't I?
Did you? I don't know. Anyway,
Pretty sure.
Now I know we talked about, I think Josh said it, the game and the Hall of Fame weekend is it's like Super Bowl week. What type, it's obvious, but we want to hear in your words what effect it has, but what type of financial impact is this going to have, throughout, the year, I guess, for you guys?
Well, you're right. It's been tough. It's been tough since early March, mid-March, when the doors closed. Until March 16th of 2020, the Hall of Fame had never been closed more than 2 days in a row. And then we went from March 16th of 2020 until June 10th, so nearly 3 full months, That is a lot of admissions that were lost. A couple of big weekends that got lost in there. Memorial Day weekend's traditionally a big weekend. Actually, Easter weekend's traditionally a pretty big weekend for people traveling and coming here. So those are lost forever. And the events this year being gone, it's not a number that I'm at liberty to give, but I can tell you it has 7 digits in it, and we're talking something in the millions of lost revenue between admissions lost and sales in our retail stores lost and events lost. And so, how do you cope with that? You come up with other programs. You come up with other programming. You tighten your belt. You hope that you can come up with some marketing initiatives to get people to come back through the door.
You create video on demand.
You reach out to Stark County and Tuscarawas County and say, hey, if you haven't been here since 2010 or 2015, a lot has changed. We're in your backyard. We're a one-tank trip. Come on down and see what we've got to offer. If you're a football junkie and you need your fix of football, we're right here in your backyard. We have some great sponsors who have stuck with us, and we've found some ways to help them get their message out, and while they continue to support us. And it is a challenging time. There's no question about that. There's no sugarcoating that. But we're going to make it. We're going to make it. We're going to get through 2020. And then start to sell some packages for 2021 and combine that with bringing the class of 2020 in and looking forward to just an enormous year next year. And then that'll make up for some of it.
Yeah, I think next year's just going to be...
I'm going to be on that list. For sure.
I know I went up to the Hall of Fame game last year. It was the Falcons and the... other team they played. Broncos. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've never been to a Hall of Fame game, man, you got to go. It's just so cool to be right there next to the facility, the museum and everything. And then it's so cool. You're right there on 77, but you're in this, this small, it's this NFL stadium. But it's like bite sized, right? So You're compact, you're in there, and you just feel like you're in this huge stadium with all these people. It's a really good time. It's a great show up there.
I'm definitely going to be on that list.
Hey, can I tell you a quick story about the Hall of Fame game?
Sure.
Yeah, you can.
And it kind of speaks to the intimacy of BENSON Stadium and being able to be close. And when we announced our postponement this year, I took a call from a woman who said, and this was before we even announced that the Steelers and Cowboys were coming back. She said, please tell me that you're going to get the Steelers next year. And I said, well, it was going to be public within about, the day the announcement, let me back up real quick, because the day the announcement was made, by the time we got everything formalized with the league and talked about how we were going to get the message out, we had timed that message for mid-morning. Well, Adam Schefter, as he occasionally does, broke the news at about 7 a.m. that the game was going to be canceled. So, word started to spread, and there was this buzz. Around 9 o'clock that morning, I took a call, and it was a woman, and she said, please tell me that you're going to get the Steelers back. And I said, well, since I don't think you're going to, tell anybody else, until she was a little bit older, and she just didn't sound like somebody who was going to put my job in jeopardy by busting some news on Twitter or something. I said, look, I'm going to tell you something that's not even going to be public for about another hour. Yes, the Steelers are coming back. And she said, oh, thank you. She says, you don't understand. She said, the Steelers are my team, and I just can't afford a ticket on the 50-yard line at Heinz Field, but I can sit on the 50-yard line in BENSON Stadium, and I've got a ticket on the 50-yard line about 12 rows back to see my Steelers, and I just want to see my Steelers. And I said, ma'am, you're going to be happy. You're going to see your Steelers. She said, just put that ticket in a safe box, safety deposit box or something for a year. I said, the hard part's going to be waiting a year, but you're going to get to the 50-yard line to see the Steelers. And that's why, while you're right, Josh, that in many cases, these teams, you're not going to see Ben Roethlisberger probably take a snap in that game. You're probably not going to see Ezekiel Elliott take a snap in that game for the Cowboys or Dak Prescott. But it's still the Steelers and it's still the Cowboys, and it still matters to a little old lady who can't get to the 50-yard line at Heinz Field. So that's what it's all about.
It is. And I mean, and you might be able to talk to this a little bit too, Percy. I mean, it's like the preseason games, the Hall of Fame game. You're not going to see the starters, but you're seeing guys out there who are really, really on the bubble of making that roster, and they're trying. I mean, they're out there and they're going hard. They're trying to earn their spot on the team.
Yeah,
because they have to expand, right? They have to expand their rosters even for that game, I think, because, just to have enough players to put out there. So there are guys that are like, this is my chance to prove myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Be in the first game. You're right. Be in the first game. The rosters are a little bit longer, and guys are given a full 100% effort. This is their chance. We talked a little earlier. Careers are only a couple years long in many cases, and this is where those special teams guys or those depth chart guys make themselves seen. And there's more guys. There are more guys in the Pro Football Hall of Fame who were late round draft picks or undrafted free agents than there were guys who were top flight first, second round draft choices. It's just the way it is. And some of it is just that hunger to make the team, just lights a fire under certain guys that carries them throughout the rest of their career.
Yeah, I would say as someone like Terrell Davis, I mean, he going to be one of the best running backs ever, but he was starting out on special teams, and I think he got to stick around because he made a big hit in a preseason game. So that was a great point, Josh. But Rich, I never thought about, with the lady you said who couldn't afford 50-yard line tickets at the Heinz Field and what it means to be able to watch her team at the Hall of Fame game. I mean, because, there's Cowboys fans all around LeBron's a Cowboys fan. So there's Cowboys fans around everywhere, and obviously aren't always going to make a trip to Dallas from Ohio to see their team and let alone be able to afford it. So that's definitely a big point that I never really thought about that makes perfect sense. And being able to come to, Canton, Ohio and, get to watch your team at that type of facility that you see all the time when you're driving by on the highway. It's a different feeling, and it also makes them feel more human. And I think the NFL likes that because I think the NBA does a good job of that. So I think it's good for everybody. It's good for everybody.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to the players too, real quick. I just remember last year sitting up, and I was kind of in the corner down closer to the end zone, but little players standing over in the end zone, just signing autographs and, just joking around with some high school players that were down there on the field with him, was Philip Lindsay. I'm like, well, there's an undrafted, player who now, after a year of success in the NFL, he gets to joke around with some high school kids and make their night, and he's not playing in the game. Somebody else is going to have that opportunity to make an impact. So it's just cool to see, especially those late round undrafted guys, really make a name for themselves and just climb it up.
Yeah. Tom Brady. So.
The GOAT. All right. So let's talk kind of before we end here, Rich, let's dive in a little bit to Hall of Fame Village. I don't know how much, I think people around this area at least know somewhat about Hall of Fame Village and kind of the plans that have been out about what's going on there, but I don't know how many people around the country know exactly what is going on with that.
Some of the biggest news about Hall of Fame Village actually happened, very recently, but I think it sort of came in under the radar for a lot of people. Hall of Fame Village, which is we talked about with the NFL being distinct from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Pro Football Hall of Fame and Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls, are two distinct entities. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is a nonprofit museum. Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls, is a for-profit company looking to build an entertainment and resort complex in and around the campus the Hall of Fame and in and around Benson Stadium, and it's got several components: a hotel and a water park, and the Center for Excellence. Percy, you going to go down the water slide?
Will it be able to hold me? No, I'm pretty sure you guys got NFL players that are a lot bigger than me that probably want to go down that thing. I definitely will. I'll take my son down.
There you go. So the Village is a separate entity looking to build an entertainment and destination resort complex. And a few weeks ago, they closed a merger deal with a group called Gordon Point that is going to open the door. Then they became a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ stock exchange. And this is going to open the door to further not public meaning public monies, but public meaning like you and me, just people in the public, can now invest in the company and to help it grow. So I think what you're going to see a shovel in the ground pretty soon on phase 2. Which is going to be, and again, because it's a separate entity, I have to confess to not being fully versed in all of their plans. But I believe phase 2 includes hotel and water park and Center for Excellence. And so the timelines for those are basically into, from late 2020, getting a shovel in the ground to having those completed by some point in early 2020, for like the tourism and travel season of 2022. So a lot of excitement there. I know some people in this area kind of want to see it to believe it. I understand that skepticism because the timeline has dragged on a little bit, but there's certainly explainable reasons for all of that. Getting financing was difficult. Even COVID played a role in that. The big announcement I said that just happened with the merger of the Village and Gordon Point was on schedule to happen right around February to March of this year, and all of a sudden, everybody, pumps the brakes and pulls the reins on business deals and decision making because there's all this uncertainty out there. So. Things went on hold for another couple of months until it finally closed in July. So it's a really exciting time. It's an announcement that was kind of technical a little bit, and maybe not everybody understood that this was kind of taking down the gate or taking down a barrier to really a lot of full speed ahead and good progress to come. So. A real exciting time for the Village and by extension, an exciting time for the Hall because as the Village succeeds, and it will, people are going to bring their sons to go down the slide, and that's what we want them to do. Spend a night in the hotel, spend a night in the water park, and then the next day come over to the Hall or buy a weekend, and we haven't gotten to this point yet to talk about what that might look like, but maybe it looks like a weekend pass. And you can come into the Hall, spend a couple hours, then go back and go swimming, come back to the Hall and see another part or see something a second time. Come watch the Game for Life holographic experience the first time through, and then watch the Super Bowl movie the second time through. Who knows what that might look like, but a lot of excitement.
It's like Disney. You can't go see it all, in one day.
Well. You know what? And the CEO of Hall of Fame Village is a gentleman named Michael Crawford, who worked for the Walt Disney Corporation for, I believe, around 20 years, maybe a little longer. One of his claims to fame is taking Mickey Mouse to Shanghai, China. He was responsible for the construction and the opening of Disney Shanghai. So it's funny you say that. I mean, it really is. Kind of the model or a model of what we're looking to be. That level of quality, that level of customer service, that level of commitment, that level of excellence are all things that the Hall of Fame and the Village are going to bring to Canton, Ohio and Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, that's why I said that. I knew that. No, I'm joking. Now when players win the Super Bowl, I'm going to the Hall of Fame. No.
Yeah, forget Disney World. Yeah, it's going to be a sight to see. I mean, it already is driving up the highway, and then right there's the the Hall of Fame with the stadium and everything, and then all the other, the practice fields that are out there. And it's just to imagine what this is going to be. It's mind blowing.
Yeah. Excited.
Going back to some of the things that we've lost amid all the COVID is, some things that maybe some folks don't think about, school field trips. And bringing kids through the hall and having them share in the, our youth and education programs are really extraordinary. Introducing kids to some of the legends of the game to tell their story and to come here. And also, you mentioned those fields. So, those fields at this time of the year would normally have soccer tournaments and lacrosse tournaments and football tournaments here coming up, and they've been a little quiet compared to the past year. So that's another group that we want to, we got to get past COVID to bring those groups back onto our campus, because that's a big deal.
Yeah, I know you guys host a lot of those tournaments and teams and things like that. Because again, how many practice fields are up there? Like 6?
You know what? I think there's 5 that are fully utilized right now. Okay. But I think when I think phase 2 includes bringing a couple more of those online. I think, and I'd have to go back and look at the new renderings that the village has, but I believe the total when it's done is going to be 9. I think either 8 or 9.
And those are all full turf fields, right? Artificial turf, yeah,
that's correct.
And you're right. I wasn't thinking about that. So you're right. That's definitely a lot of things that there's a lot of things that are, I guess, that fly under the radar that most people like myself or Josh might not think about. Well, I guess I won't include Josh. He's always up there, but that we don't think about that the hall is lost or whatever. So I think it's important that people know. There's a lot of stuff out there that usually just. It's par for the course, and it's routine, and it's just not happening now. So,
yep. So
while we're struggling, think too. The whole travel and tourism industry, the hospitality industry. Those youth events. Yeah, they draw teams from around here. They draw teams from all over the country. Youth teams. Get into tournaments with the chance to. Hey, I'm going to Canton. My 10U flag football team is playing in a tournament with a chance to go to Canton to play at a national event. Those people stay in our hotels. Those people eat at our restaurants, and all of that's just on hold right now. And we're struggling, but so's the entire hospitality industry, and that's why we need to figure out this COVID stuff and get past it, get through it, work together. Come together, I got my mask, my Hall of Fame mask, that we wear inside the, anytime we're in a public area inside the hall, we all wear our masks and we got to get through this together, because that's what we need to get some of these industries back on their feet.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually on that note, I think we'll end with your thoughts on this topic. So the NFL season at this point, it is happening. Preseason's not happening. That decision came out. But like with the way the NBA is handling their shortened season, the way Major League Baseball's, taking their approach, how do you see the NFL season playing out this year, or will it play out?
Tough one.
I think it will. I think fingers crossed.
Yeah.
No, I think it will. I don't think anybody's going to make a reckless decision just because of money. But let's be honest. There is a lot of money, tied up in this from the networks and the advertisers in the NFL, and they're certainly going to do everything in their power to have a season. And if it means canceling the preseason so that there's more time to stay in a cocoon or a bubble, whatever you want to call it, in your team facilities. That's one reason to cancel the preseason game. You might see the start of the NFL season delayed by a couple more weeks, again, to try to give some more time to let social distancing and mask wearing flatten that curve even some more. I think you're going to see an NFL season. I think you're going to see the NFL season start with no fans. I think that if we continue to go the right way, as far as dealing with the pandemic, maybe even seeing a vaccine in some trials on a large-scale basis, I think maybe by the halfway point of the season, you might see teams start to introduce fans to the stadium, maybe at a quarter or a 33% capacity type of setting. And then if that succeeds for a few weeks, maybe ramping that up. I think the NFL's goal is to stage the Super Bowl as scheduled in February, or perhaps a few weeks later in February or early March, with a stadium full of people. And I think that's going to happen. Nice. If that's the first game with a full stadium, we'll see. But my thought is we'll have a season. It'll look a lot different. The television ratings will be ridiculous, and I hope they don't do too much of the. I don't know. I'm not liking the way MLB's doing some of the crowd noise and stuff, but we'll see. Some of the.
Oh man. Yeah.
Some of the cardboard cutouts and the fake organ music is a little tough to get used to. But
would that be weird, Percy? I mean,
that you're
100%. 100%. That would be weird. If I was out there playing right now, it'd be weird.
Yeah. European soccer has shown that it can be done. Now, granted, those rosters are a little smaller. But I think the NFL is looking at best practices. The NFL has the luxury, or has had the luxury of kind of coming last here, of seeing how MLB is doing it and what's working and what's not. And quite frankly, what's happening with MLB right now, with some games being postponed and because some infections cropped up in some of the team clubhouses, I think that's going to help the NFL. It's going to help doctors too to understand what works and what doesn't work. So I think the NFL benefits from timing a little bit. It's got the NBA going, it's got the NHL going, it's got European soccer going, and it's got baseball going. So I think there's going to be a season.
Nice.
Love to hear it, especially as a very avid fantasy football player. I'm like, come on, baby, we need some football.
Oh man, well, I appreciate the time you've given us. Is there anything else you wanted to?
No, Rich. I mean, really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Do you want to take a second and just kind of tell the listeners and everybody, where to follow you on social media and how to get in touch with the Hall?
You know what? It's nice and simple, because all of our Instagram, our Facebook, our Twitter, and our website are all Pro Football HOF. Nice. And ProFootballHOF.com. And you'll find us on whatever platform you use, and you'll find some fun stuff. We've got trivia, we've got shout outs to guys celebrating their birthdays, and just some diving into the archives. Especially what you're going to see over the next week or so. It's a lot of on this date and such a year, because we're coming up to early August when the Enshrinement traditionally is held. So you'll see some fun on this date in 1980 something or 1990 something. This memorable clip from somebody's Enshrinement speech. So follow us on all those platforms, or our URL, ProFootballHOF.com, and our video on demand is VOD.ProFootballHOF.com. So appreciate the opportunity to call those out one more time.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing all of this information that you shared. I'm looking forward to the video on demand. I know that's available today, so I'm definitely going to check out that website today. No doubt about it. And I'm sure Josh is. I always watch. I grew up on archived sports videos. I watched Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan, their dunk contest from 1988. I had that on VHS, and I had this NFL Films with two gentlemen, and they argue. That's the only reason I know who Steve Largent is, because of that film. I know all these players because of that film, the VHS. Yeah, Josh. Yes, VHS is what I'm saying.
I know, man. I remember those days. But this is way easier.
Yeah. Yeah, not having to rewind, you know.
Yeah. Be kind, rewind.
Yes. Yeah. You were going to say, I was thinking about that.
There's a 50-cent fine for that.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah, people don't know these days.
Rich Desrosiers from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, not the NFL Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Really appreciate you talking with us. If you ever want to jump back on another episode of this podcast to just talk about some new things coming up, feel free to reach out. We'd love to have you.
All right, guys. I appreciate your time as well.
All right, you have a good one,
Stay
Rich.
safe.
Yep,
Yeah,
you too.